Hi, I am here to talk to you about your Big History Exam study guide and some of the things that you need to focus on. So, if you take your study guide, which you should have provided to you, I want to go over some sections. So, the first one is, when did life appear on Earth? You need to know the date. There was a date given to you. The second one is, why did dinosaurs probably become extinct? So, what is the prevalent theory on what they believe caused the dinosaur extinction? The third one, what were the first single cell organisms that lived in the seas called? So that's a definition. That's in your vocabulary. You should know that. What is DNA? Again, another vocabulary question. What are the Goldilocks conditions for life to occur, for life to appear? I believe that was Unit 5, but that's in your guided notes. Number 6, what were the physical features of the mammals that evolved after the extinction of dinosaurs? So remember, there were mammals, there were small shrew-like mammals or little teeny mammals when the dinosaurs existed, but due to adaptive radiation after the dinosaurs became extinct, you had new mammals that appeared, and they developed these two distinct physical features that helped them survive and thrive. The next one is the Cambrian explosion, and again, that's a definition question. The Big Bang, know the theory of the Big Bang. Know what an origin story is. Cosmic horizon, galaxy, supernova, fusion, neutron star. With those, again, know what they are. Those are vocab. But when it comes to the fusion or neutron star or supernova, you should know what comes out of those things or how they're created. That's important. Periodicity, radioactivity, those are definitions. Supercluster, know what that is. Chemistry and biology and physics, what are they the study of? Ions, stars, those are again vocab. Thresholds of increasing complexity, you need to know what that is and how those occur. Entropy is another vocab. Emergent properties, same thing. Same thing with atoms. So that's the first sheet, items 1 through 26. If you go to the second page, gravity, electromagnetism, parallax, Cepheid, dwarf star. Those are, again, all vocabulary questions you should be able to identify. The next one's more complicated. That's Columbian exchange, and we went over that. So know what it is, what were the main plants, animals, and diseases that were exchanged. So in class, you did that map activity where you and your groups decided which animals and plants, where they originated and where they went to. So you need to know like what things originated in the Americas that went to Eurasia and what things originated in Eurasia that went back over to the Americas. Those things are important. Silk roads. You need to know the significance of the Silk roads and how the Silk roads led to European explorers wanting to find other routes to Asia. The four world zones, we talked about that. I believe that was the last unit, Unit 8. And there's an article on that. Remember those, the four world zones, the Americas, Eurasia, Australasia, the Pacific, right? Know those. Know what was prominent in those areas. Globalization, vocab term. What is the explosion of a large star at the end of its life? You had that worksheet that had the 4 life stages of a star. You should know those 4 stages. And if you know those 4 stages and what happens in them from that sheet, you'll be prepared to answer that question and a couple of others. What was the dominant lifestyle of the people in the Pacific and Australasian world zones? Again, I just talked about that. So, were they foragers? Were they nomads? Were they, what were they? Were they farmers? Because they were different than in Eurasia. What old world disease had the most devastating effect on Native Americans? There were several, but there was one that was really bad. And we've almost eradicated it today with a vaccine, but we talked about that in class. What were 2 inventions for armies that also led to improved farm economies? That's from your guided notes in Unit 8. And these were things that were eventually developed for the military, but ended up having great uses in the agricultural sector. Okay. What is the system used for organizing elements? You should know that. There's one displayed in Mr. Peel's room. Evolution, organisms, fossils, biodiversity, species, bacteria, reproduction, dinosaurs, adaptation. All of those things are definitions, and you should know their effects like adaptation. Greenhouse effect, again, definition. What are the effects, the long term consequences of possible greenhouse effect? Seafloor spreading, know what that is, and what it results from or what it creates. What is electromagnetism radiation arranged in order of its wavelength? That is a vocab question. Subduction and subduction zones, you need to know what that is, what occurs in that area. Transform plate boundaries, same thing. What happens at the transform plate boundaries and divergent plate boundaries? Mantle is just a definition. 57, this is on the third page of the study guide. What was the earliest period in Earth's history, also known as the Hellish era? Remember, that is the Hadean Eon. Know what the characteristics of that era. What forms volcanic mountains? That is in your vocab, and it should also be in your guided notes. Plate tectonics, radiation, earthquakes, all of those things. Again, what causes those to move, what causes earthquakes to occur, those are vocab. The next one, what are the characteristics of mammals? That is in your guided notes, and the characteristics of mammals have to do with the fact that they have fur and that whole section there. Know the difference between a geological event, a biological event, and an astronomical event. Those all affect the biosphere, and that's what you need to know. So if I say, a volcanic eruption, which type of event is that? And you should know that that's a geological event. Okay, so that's what you need to know there. 66, what led Darwin to develop the theory of natural selection? What did he see in the natural world that gave him the clue about natural selection and help him develop that as part of his theory of evolution? What is the biosphere? Density, carbon, iron. Again, vocab. With carbon and iron, you need to know why they're the important elements in terms of the Earth, okay, and life on Earth. 71, what is significant about helium and hydrogen? That has to do with the beginning stages of our galaxy. Science is a definition question. Adaptive radiation, what that is and when it really has occurred that we studied. 74, how are most chemical elements created? That's from the very beginning when we talked about stars. Who created the periodic table of elements? That's obviously a person, okay? 76, what was the state of the entire universe roughly 380,000 years after the Big Bang? That is in your notes from the very beginning of our class. What element do all large stars eventually produce? Again, in the notes from the beginning of the course. What was the last zone to develop? Hint, hint, you're living in it. Authority, logic, and evidence, 79, 81, and 82. Those are all claim testers. So not only should you be able to define them, but you should be able to apply them. Kepler, Ptolemy, Galileo, Copernicus, Newton. We're going on some to the next page. When it comes to the names like that, you need to know what theories are associated with them. Okay. Barter, intuition. Intuition's another claim tester, right? Barter is a vocab word. Multicellular organism, again, another vocabulary word. What are the functions of proteins? I believe that's in your vocabulary, and it may also be in your guided notes, but I think the functions of proteins is in the unit vocabulary. Marsupials, another vocab. What did our solar system consist of before the sun formed? Very beginning of the course. What is a rainbow? Has to do with the spectrum, so know that. And what is the path of a body's motion through space, often dictated by the gravitational pull of one or more larger bodies called? That's a vocab. Group of galaxies held together by their mutual gravitational pulls, number 96, vocab. What is a solar system? Again, vocab. Accretion, it is a vocab, and why is it important in terms of the formation of our universe? Protoplanetary disk is part of the vocab, and it's related to accretion. 100, conditions on young Earth. Remember, there were actually a video clip that we watched of that and it had the cartoon character living on young Earth and what would happen to him if a human tried to live on young Earth, and that was pretty funny. So you should remember that. 101, what role did photosynthesis play in the development of the Earth? That has to do with oxygen production. 102, what sparked European exploration? That had to do with the Ottomans. If you remember, the Ottoman Turks had control of the trade routes, so look that up. That was in the last chapter, the last unit, the one that we didn't have a test on, Unit 8. What galaxy does our solar system belong to? You should know that from our notes, and just from being an American, you should know that by now, right? What products did Europeans want from China? A lot of you during the review game forgot that silk was really important. It was considered a luxury fabric in Europe, so know that. What are the 4 stages of the life of the star in order? Again, that goes back to that worksheet that we did at the very beginning of the year where you had the pictures and you had to line them up and write in the order and what was happening. You should know that. How did our Earth's moon form? Those are notes from the beginning of the course. And what caused the sun to finally line up? Again, those are notes. What is the order of the planets in our solar system? You probably know that there's a song and there's a mnemonic that can help you learn that. You can look that up on YouTube if you can't remember your order. What caused collective learning to increase? Now that comes in with the evolution of humans, and they talk about that, and that's in your guided notes. Fossil fuels, definition, genes, definition. What percent of the matter in the gas cloud formed our sun? That should be cloud. It says could. I need to check that on 112, but that is in your very beginning of the course in the notes. And then the last page is the short answer and essay topics. Know the form claim testers, which are in the study guide in earlier parts, and be able to provide examples from everyday life. So really look that up. And there are some articles and some videos on that. I believe it's in Unit 1 or maybe Unit 2. Look in there. There's sections on claim testing. There's a whole lesson on claim testing. I want to say it's in Unit 1 online, but look that up if you want to get some examples. Explain how the church explains the difference between the creation story in the Bible and evolution and the Big Bang Theory. So remember at the very beginning of the course, you read the catechism on creation, and that was really important. And then you know the creation story in Genesis, of course. So how does the church say, okay, we have the creation story in the Old Testament, and then we also have science, which has this Big Bang Theory and the theory of evolution. How does the church make that so those are not in conflict? In other words, how does the church say it's okay for us to believe in evolution or the Big Bang Theory? And that doesn't go against what we know about the story of creation in the Bible. What do they say about that? That's what you had that question before on your very first test. And so I'm just revisiting that question. And then the last one was the short answer that I was going to put on the last test, but we decided for time we would take it off and put it on the exam. It has to do with collective learning. In order for collective learning to occur among humans, right, because collective learning cannot occur among other species, what things had to develop so that humans could have collective learning? And then what, those ingredients, and then what was the impact on human civilization? How did the fact that we suddenly had the ability for collective learning, and it sparked a huge increase after the development of agriculture, but what about that? How did it impact human civilization and human development? So basically, the first question, you almost can bullet and use complete sentences to describe, to define, and then to provide an example showing that you really do understand what it is. The second question, that can be, just a really glorified large paragraph, but it needs to be pretty detailed. And then the last one, again, you need to prove your point. Okay, what are the ingredients? And then the impact. You need to be specific. So think about some specifics there. Okay, so in the beginning, so number 2, you need to go way back. 1 and 2, you need to go way back to the very beginning of the course. We took some salient points on number 2, so you should know that. And then the last one was from our Unit 6 and 7. And so if you are wanting some questions about that, you can look on the Big History website for that information to get some ideas on how to answer that question. So those are all some basic guidelines on studying for this exam. And I wish you the best of luck. You know much of this material, and just relax and it's going to go very well. Okay? And if you have any other questions, you can email me. All right. Happy studying.